In this tutorial, I want to show you how you can create a Photoshop mock-up of a person holding a poster. Now to do this, we want to be able to place any design onto this poster and of course make it look believable and real. So we're starting off with a photograph of a person holding a blank page. Now I don't know the exact dimensions of it, but that's okay for what we're doing. Just know that we want to be able to test this out. We need to have some photographs or some artwork that matches the same dimensions. So to get started, I'm going to open this image in Photoshop, and the Layers panel is going to be the most important thing to have open, so make sure you've got access to it. We're going to keep this image on the background layer, but the first thing we need to do is we need to have a smart object that we can place directly inside of our design. Now this is a rectangular area we're working on, so the best object or the best tool to use is going to be our rectangular vector drawing tool. So with the rectangle tool selected, up at the very top, let's make sure we're working in shape mode, and you can fill it in really with whatever color you want, but we don't need any stroke or pixels around it. I'm going to keep mine in orange so that we can see it. Now we can click and drag and draw off a simple rectangle that covers the entire area. If I was to lower the opacity, you can see that there are some little spots that overhang, and that's okay. We actually want it to do that. So you want to make your rectangle slightly larger than the area that you want to cover. Later on, we'll go in and we'll adjust the size of it. If need be, go to each of the corners, so I can see down here at the very bottom where it's off by a little bit, and adjust the size of it again so that it fills out the entire area. Now that we've got our rectangular shape, before you do anything else, we need to convert this layer to a Smart Object layer. So with the layer selected in your Layers panel, you can go up to your Options and choose Convert to Smart Object. This will give it the little Smart Object icon, and you can actually rename this Place Artwork here. This way, whoever uses your design will know where to place it and how it should look. From here, now let's see if we can modify this layer to make it look like it's actually part of this overall design. The first thing we want to do is we want to be able to blend it in with the highlights and shadows of the paper that's underneath it. To do this, with the Place Artwork layer selected, you can change its blending mode to Multiply. That's the quickest and easiest way to get rid of all the lighter pixels and merge them within the darker pixels. Now when we do this, you can also see that the hands are being shown, and of course the little outer edges need to be trimmed up as well. So this is where we're going to add a layer mask onto this layer to mask out any parts that we don't need. The quickest way to add a layer mask is by turning off your artwork layer, select your background layer, and let's choose our quick selection tool. I like to use this one that's usually hiding with your magic wand or object selection tool. With this selected, you may need to change the size of your brush, but make sure you're just working in normal selection mode. So I'm going to make mine just a little bit larger so I can quickly find that edge. From here, I can click and drag inside of the white area. You can see how it does a really good job of quickly and easily finding those edges. Now with the area selected, let's turn back on visibility for our artwork and select the artwork layer. When you click on the center button at the bottom, this will add a layer mask, and it will mask off everything around it. So notice how it fits nicely inside of that area. The last thing we need to do is to go in and clean up the edges and the details. If I was to zoom in and look specifically at the fingers, it did a pretty good job, but it obviously missed a couple of areas. So to clean it up, I'm going to go to my paintbrush tool, and whatever I set black is going to mask it in, and whatever I set white as my foreground color when I paint is going to undo or add on the mask that I have. Do make sure that you're working at 100% opacity and 100% flow, and your brush mode is set to normal. You may also want to change the size and the hardness of your brush. I tend to like my brush a little bit on the harder side when I'm cleaning up these particular edges. Although if you back it off, it'll give it a nice soft edge wherever it's necessary. So take your time now and go through and clean up each of the edges, swapping back and forth to mask or unmask what you need. When you're finished masking off the area, we can back out. Let's save our document as a regular Photoshop file. So I'm going to call this my holding poster. Do make sure Photoshop is selected so it gets all of your layers. We'll say OK. Now we can go in and actually test our design. In order to test it, all you have to do is double-click on the Smart Object. This will open up your Smart Object layer or actual file. And let's place the picture of the poster that I gave to you. With it placed inside of there, all I've got to do now is to save my image and jump back into my original design. And now you can see it's placed in there and it looks like it's actually mocked up. So if there's any problems with this, this is where you can always go back and rechange up the placement, the smart object, or the masking to make it look perfect before submitting to the Moodle page.